legendary fights, original and unheard of ones, accidents during games, or super talented athletes. Sit back and enjoy the moments in sports you'd like to see again. The man you see in these images is quite chubby, not feeling very well in his body anymore. He said to himself that day that he would go to the gym and lift a few pounds. Carried away by an excessive motivation, he decided to lift weight, a lot of weight, like 387 kilos at once, and do squats with it. When you're not used to lifting even 1 kilo, it's very difficult to start like that. As a result, the man was unable to lift all 387 kilos on his shoulders. Even worse, the dumbbells all fell off the bar, one after the other. The man failed miserably at this exercise, causing total hilarity to everyone in the room. He had to go back to his home very wasted, but also with the firm intention of never setting foot in a weight room again. Clinging to your race with all your might to win the first prize is fine, but clinging to a car to win is not very Catholic. These images were recorded in August 2015 during the Tour of Spain. Among the competitors, the Italian rider Vincenzo Nibali. Arrived at the time of the race, the Italian cyclist fell at 30 kilometers from the finish, while he was between Alhaurín de la Torre and Caminito del Rey. He then tried to catch up with the peloton and to make up for the time he lost during the crash. The winner of the 2014 Grand Boucle restored to a less than honorable method. While Nibali was clocking in at over a minute behind the peloton, he went to a car owned by his sports director, Astana, to hang on to it in order to blow and gain an advantage. A lot of advantage, actually. And as a result, he was able to overtake the entire group of latecomers from which he was struggling to escape. Of course, the opportunity was a real boon for him. It would be hard not to give in to the temptation, but Nibali could still have controlled himself and avoided using this technique since he was filmed from above by a helicopter that recorded the entire race. This could have worked if the cheating had not been immediately exposed by the organizers. As a result, the Italian cyclist was excluded by the commissaires of the event. A painful sentence that ends in the worst way his participation in the competition, especially since he was one of the candidates for the final victory. Worse than that, this act will have really dirtied his image with all. Very disappointed by this sanction, the Transalpine cyclist declared that he considered this sanction too radical and too severe. He expected a penalty of a few minutes or a fine, but not such a quick exclusion. But let our cyclist be reassured, he is not the first to have acted in this way. It seems that hanging onto a car is a common practice. During the 2014 Tour de France, Spanish cyclist José Joaquín Rojas had camouflaged himself behind his car on the descent of the Tourmalet. He too was excluded from the Grand Boucle by the commissaires for the same reasons. The Argentinian Eduardo Sepulveda was also excluded from the race for having used the car during his race on a few meters, as well as the British Christopher Froome, who in 2010 had for his part clung to a motorcycle. 2 short days and then goes away. Unfortunately for the Italian rider, he spent only 2 days on the Tour of Spain and learned the hard way that this practice is strictly prohibited by the rules. He ended up apologizing on social networks with a bitter aftertaste of defeat. A driver was on board his racing car, accompanied by several dozen other cars. He was competing for the first place in the event. In the middle of the race, another car tried to turn, but was unable to do so. It was hit by another car and ended up in the opposite direction, right in front of our driver. The man didn't have time to swerve and ended up on the roof of the car. Since the car was upside down, the hood made it easier for him to get on the roof. As a result, the driver was trapped because he could not get back down. In this position, the player unfortunately could not go very far and was forced to abandon the race. He could not defend his place, but he still had a panoramic view of the circuit. Ivan Saborowski is a young soccer goalkeeper, just 16 years old. In these pictures, the young man was on a soccer field. While he was quietly jogging along with the ball between his feet during the warm-up for training, the Russian goalkeeper was struck by a bolt of lightning, which immediately knocked him to the ground and made him disappear in a thick cloud of black smoke. Ivan Saborowski was immediately rushed to the hospital and placed in an induced coma. His shirt was burned on the front. The goalkeeper of FC Znamia Truda had great difficulty in breathing and obviously lost consciousness, because later he will be unable to tell what happened to him. Fortunately, Ivan Saborowski recovered his full capabilities except for a small red mark the size of a coin on his chest, as a reminder of the unfortunate accident. But it took him about 3 weeks to get back into shape and back on the pitch. Better than that, his return was as memorable as his departure, as he immediately signed a contract with his club upon his release from the hospital. In these images filmed during a France-Germany match during the Euro, an activist from the environmental association Greenpeace was in the air with his paraglider on his back. He wanted to take advantage of the presence of thousands of people, as well as that of the cameras of the whole world, to be able to defend the noble cause of the defense of the environment. Moreover, he flew over the lawn of the Allianz Arena with written on his sail, "Clear the oil." He was flying over the Munich stadium in a microlight, when suddenly he was caught by accident in a cable of the flying camera, just a few seconds before the kickoff of France-Germany. The pilot was very close to crashing into the stand, because when he hit the cable, the man was destabilized and was automatically dragged to the ground. He had a hard time to re-establish the controls before landing very close to the stand and landed on the grass of the Allianz Arena, damaged but fortunately without injuries. The activist was probably close to a tragedy, because he could have lost his life. In fact, he was the cause of the injury of a person who was immediately taken to the emergency room. In the end, he was more scared than hurt. But his association still wanted to clarify things by publishing a word of apology on social networks and clarifying that this action was in no way with the aim of hurting anyone, and that all their actions are peaceful and non-aggressive. It's sure that this way at least he will be well noticed. The cheerleader you see in these pictures is a 16-year-old American girl. Her name is Miranda Ferguson, and she lives in the United States. In these images, the young woman was challenged to break the record for the most backflips. In front of all the cameras and the people present, as well as the viewers who were watching the live news, the young woman launched herself in a frantic rhythm in a series of backflips. In just a few minutes, Miranda Ferguson managed to do 35 backflips in one go without stopping or taking a breath. She broke the previous record of 32 backflips. Well, looking at her face at the end of the performance, we can't say she didn't get dizzy. But her smile and her joy when she received the title of the champion of the greatest number of backflip show that she quickly forgot this dizziness. While in the locker room with the rest of his team, the soccer player was challenged to score a goal. Not thinking he could do it, his teammates challenged him to smell his armpits the next time he scored. A challenge that he obviously accepted to avoid being seen as the most loser of the players. During the match, the player was able to score his goal against all expectations. Celebrating this last one, our player did not forget the bet. He raised his arm in pride, and all the players followed suit. They lined up and took turns smelling the sweaty armpits of their teammate. The funny thing about the scene was that they made fun of it and acted out, pretending to pass out after exhaling the foul smell of sweat. The scene made many people laugh. The disadvantage for him is that he had to lose all his friends that night. But the advantage is that he returned to the locker room proud to have shut them all up. Well, the nostrils. In Russia, a Thai boxing champion woke up one morning with the intention of fighting an opponent like no other. A kangaroo! What an idea! In front of thousands of spectators, the man got ready to fight an adult kangaroo. Except that he forgot that originally it was the kangaroos that taught humans how to box, and not the other way around. So he faced the wrong opponent, because a few minutes after the beginning of the fight, the boxer was already down, knocked out by the marsupial. The boxer was hit very hard by the animal, which did not go there with dead hands either. The man was evacuated just after he ended up on the ground, while the kangaroo was able to savor his victory like a real champion. Of course, as you may have guessed, the player got up immediately backstage, because it was all just a role play. It was indeed a show performed by the boxer, and the kangaroo as part of a circus act. But he realized that his kangaroo had real acting skills too. In China, a young boxer had to do a fight, and the opponent he had to face was a woman. Rather confident and sure of himself, he got into the ring, thinking he would quickly finish her off. But the woman was quite strong and was the same size as him, something he didn't expect. As a result, after a few minutes of fighting and after having received several hard blows from his rival, our boxer had to stop. His opponent, being stronger than he imagined, he ended up running out of strength. He couldn't even finish the second round. That'll teach him to underestimate the girls. So, which of these sequences did you like the most? Tell us what you think in the comments. And if you like this video, don't forget to give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to receive all the notifications and not miss anything from our next contents.